Jaz bi sakala najprej da se...
Initially, I would like to express my gratitude for the possibility to participate in the 4th Congress Global Conference and on the opportunity to present my paper. The topic I'm going to talk about are the documented data that exists in the archives of Great Britain and the USA as to the attempt of the immigration organizations to articulate the Macedonian question and to that is to point out and to engage the great forces for a positive resolution of the Macedonian question in the period upon the conclusion of the Second World War. That also drew upon the negative impact of the Treaty of Bucharest and immediately after the end of the Balkans Wars, having Macedonia divided between Greece, Bulgaria, Serbia, and a small portion to Albania. When it comes to the Macedonian question, there aren't any essential reflections or modifications that with the following treaties and agreements, such as the Paris one, only confirmed what has been agreed during the Treaty of Bucharest, but with the Atlantic Treaty of 1941, hope was given that essential changes were feasible when it comes to resolution of the Macedonian question. Namely, the Atlantic Treaty was a mobilizer and contributed to majority of the population to become allies to the anti-Hitler movement. Self-determination principle and article stipulated there was quite important, by the means of which the small size nations could relate. That gave hope to the Macedonian people that after the war it can self-determine, self-identify and form its own state. That was an acquired right to the Macedonian people. It wasn't gifted, it wasn't awarded as a present, but just by participating with the anti-Hitler coalition in the Second World War, the Macedonians gained the right to have a state of their own. 1946-1947, majority of the Macedonian immigration in Canada and USA took an active role to address the ambassadors, the consular representatives, to seek for resolution of the Macedonian question. The pages of the daily press in Yugoslavia were filled with comments giving support to the Macedonian people in its fight for liberation and constitution of an autonomous state. The end of the Second World War meant continuation of the talks and consideration of forming a federal unions and confederation of the Balkans. In that sense, the small-sized peoples saw its future within a federation, union, or confederation. The Macedonian people themselves saw the opportunity, united, to enter some of those federations. Several or two options were presented. The Yugoslav-Bulgarian Federation, represented by the Soviet Union, another solution, and that would be the Balkan Federation, in which all Balkan states without exception would participate, represented by Great Britain, however, in which not only Slavic peoples will enter, but Greece and Turkey as well. Macedonian immigration accepted any idea in which she sought the resolution of the Macedonian question. So 8th of January 1945, the Macedonian organization from Canada and the United Macedonian Council of Toronto sent a telegram to the British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, in which they congratulate him to the recent statement in the British Parliament that he will do everything to unite all Balkan peoples and states in a Balkan federation. They consider that to be the single and the most practical solution. And as per this, the Macedonian people will support your idea, it's a quote, and will hope that you will assist that goal of the Macedonian people, the desire of the Macedonian people is to renew its historic rights in the future Balkan Federation. They invested great hopes that the principle of the Atlantic Treaty for self-determination of all people and nations will contribute mostly towards that. Let's see what was the advice of the experts of the ministers of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to Mr. Churchill, Great Britain. The answer of the experts was that the sent telegram of the United Macedonian Council should only receive confirmation on reception and should be courteous. To the experts, it was the claim of the Canadians of Macedonian origin was quite enigmatic, stating that the state of the First Minister has been interpreted as encouragement to the Macedonian hopes. Their suggestion was that it's necessary for Churchill to send the confirmation for reception with the following content. Mr. Churchill should express gratitude for a telegram of the United Macedonian Council of 8th of January, and he will hope that conditions prerequisite will exist in which satisfactory agreement between the Balkan states in accordance with the principles for which the United Nations will fight should be put into place. This is quite a hypocritical answer because they were the ones dictating the conditions and the environment. And Great Britain was one of them, one of the great forces. Telegrams were sent by Macedonian immigration to Josip Broz Tito. In them, after the liberation of Macedonia, they emphasized they will do anything in order to build a better new future for the Macedonian people. Also, the League of the American Macedonians from Detroit joined the support for the policy and the politics towards the Macedonian delivered by Tito. 45 September, a telegram by the Minister of Political Organization from US and Canada to Ernest Bevin, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Great Britain. The telegram was sent. In the telegram, it was emphasized the Balkan history of the last half of this century showed that the greatest problem for peace and progress of the peninsula is the Macedonian problem, and that the peace of the Balkans can be achieved only if the Macedonian problem is properly solved. Macedonia for the Macedonians. According to them, the solution will be forming of Macedonian state out of the three divided parts of Macedonia that will be either in federation with other Balkan states or a fully independent state under the protectorate of the five big great forces. According to them, the best solution for the complex Macedonian problem can be achieved by adoption and revival in practice of the slogan of the Macedonian people. Also, this idea was supported by the Macedonian religious community that St. Stephen in Indianapolis, that in September 45 sent a telegram to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Great Britain, Ernest Bevin, and they also supported the idea of an independent state under the protectorate of the five great forces. So. Also, with letters and memorandums regarding the resolution of the Macedonian question, especially active was the oldest Macedonian immigrant organization, the Alliance or Union of Macedonian Patriotic Organizations, MPO, in US and Canada. On the day of Japan's capitulation, 2nd of September, and the end of the Second World War, MPO held its 24th annual convention in Detroit, Michigan. At the same conference, they adopted a memorandum entitled the boiling Macedonian question submitted to the British Minister of Foreign Affairs in the accompanying letter signed by the President of the Central Committee of the Macedonian Political Organization, Chris Anastasov, it was emphasized that the application of the principles of the Atlantic Charter are the cornerstone for the future peace. According to them, the peace of the Balkans can exist only when all the reasons for the disagreements and the potential conflicts between the Balkan states will be eliminated. The basic reasons, according to them, was the division for the division of the Balkan state was the division and the external domination over Macedonia, geographic, economic entirety of 23,000 square kilometers inhabited with 3 million people, with the city Thessaloniki as a capital. That is why their desire as Macedonian Americans was, after the war, to enforce post-war resurrection of a free, geographically united and independent Macedonia or autonomous state. Macedonia, where all its inhabitants, regardless of race and nationality, will live in peace and harmony. They presented this to the British minister, the memorandum and the stages of the fights of the Macedonian people throughout the history, with independence and unification. And hope was instilled by the recognition of all the rights of Macedonians within the democratic federative Yugoslavia. That is why in the memorandum, on behalf of the Americans and Canadians of Macedonian origin, they considered that their duty was to suggest to the world public opinion that the permanent peace of the Balkans can be delivered solely if they unite all the three parts into one Macedonia. And if that cannot be done, Macedonia should be put under the protectorate of the United Nations, the Soviet Union and England, and hence Macedonia will become a uniting chain to the Balkan unity.
И телеграма от македонското.
A telegram of the Macedonian Inform Bureau by St. Louis, Montana, in which they accentuate that justice and permanent peace in the Balkans can be achieved by forming free and democratic Macedonian state. We are committed Macedonia to be given to Macedonians. End of quote. Telegram to Ernest Bevin was sent by the from Macedonian Bulgarian Orthodox Church in Pennsylvania. They were committed, Bevin, to take the stance for creation of free and independent Macedonia. The Macedonian Women Voluntary Charity Association from Canton, Ohio, 1945, sent a telegram to Bevin with the same content. Let's not... What was the response to the telegrams? The hopes that the Macedonian question will be solved in the Paris Peace Conference 96-97, and Macedonians were disappointed by this. At the Paris Peace Conference, there was the Macedonian question was not raised nor solved. It wasn't even put on table, nor was initiative raised in order to be solved by the Yugoslav official delegation. Only that question, Dimitar Vlahov was the only one to raise this question in the framework of the discussion of the Greek, when Greece asked for a tampon zone to be built between Greece and Macedonia in order to block the communication between the population of Greece and Macedonia. Thus, what the Macedonian delegation at the meeting at Vis between Josip Broz Tito on one side and the Macedonian delegation on the other side, that is Metodi Andonovčenko, Kiro Petrževski, Emanuel Čučkov, in 1944, as promise, they were given. At the moment, the question of the Macedonian status cannot be unified. Macedonian cannot, but in the following peace conferences it will be raised and solved. This still remains an empty promise. The Macedonian question needs continuity, neither at the conference in Yalta 1945 nor the next conference is constituted after the war order, geopolitical map and spheres. It was not raised, it was not put on table, nor at the Paris Peace Conference. Thus, the Macedonian dream was over. The Atlantic Charter would have been. The result was devastating. Macedonia remained to be divided, and the Macedonian people only in the frameworks of the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia could enjoy the right as equal people politically and culturally. That end of the Paris Peace Conference was a reason again MPO to raise their voice with a memorandum to the British Minister of Foreign Affairs and to General Secretary of UN. The memorandum was submitted to the Foreign Office, and its content coincides with the memorandum of 1945. These reactions by the Macedonian immigration remained only as documents sent to the Foreign Office in a drawer. After their arrival, their receipt, the memorandum was sent to the Southern Department of the Foreign Office, and it was supposed to be responded, but the 28th November reaction was that first the research department should work on this issue. However, the fighters and the question of the civil war and the great devaluation of the civil war in Greece was simply evaluated in this way. They thought that DAC, DAG were Nazis bandit, and that their aim was forming autonomous Macedonia in the frameworks of the Slovenian Federation. According to them, this federation was accepted by Bulgaria and Yugoslavia, and according to them, it meant exit to the Slav bloc of Aegean and Thessaloniki. It was an unfavorable solution. Their suggestion was Greece to oppose these tendencies with their support on their side. They were firmly standing that as allies, UK will not support this idea because the whole area was inhabited by the Greeks. And the Macedonian issue, again, the basic question was autonomy of Macedonia, which was very old. The government of His Royal Highness will not resurrect this question. The efforts of the Macedonian diaspora, there are great hopes, but what was decided at the Balkans, and great forces determined our fate. USA, UK, and Russia. The danger of a creation of a powerful Slav bloc with communist order was opposite of the interests of UK and Western capitalism. In that way, the issue of Macedonians was put at the margins and remained unsolved.
Dobro, otvoreno je ako ima prašanja.
Do you have any questions? Please. Thank you. A simple question. When you said, what about the future? We heard all these speakers but I'd like to greet this organization. May you exist forever. I thank you. I'm thankful that the great forces in the world and what you maybe they will apologize one day for what they did wrong to us, at least for the last 100 years. And my question is, shall we Macedonians wait as the Pope Paul John to apologize for the victims, or maybe we'll point out philosophically and poetically with all our institutions to the Macedonian visionaries This is a poem. My question is, do we have the energy on this planet Earth with our knowledge and this analysis of the past and of the present to give directions for future? And I am just a Kangorok prophet or artist. Thank you. This truth that we are all gathered here shows that we have potential and energy and interest. The Macedonian question, since its genesis, comes to great pressure, receives great pressure. I don't want to sound pathetic, that we should always go against this. That everybody else it's everybody else's fault for our situation and our fate. What I'd like to say and point out now, and was part of my conclusion, is that Macedonia, after 100 years, we should show unity in front of the international community. Today is the day when Macedonian people must not allow to be scattered. We must show maturity in front of the European community and the world, that we are able to overcome any interest, including internal party interests, and we must have a total consensus and dominate with our undoubtful attitude for the right for our independence and constitutional name. We must be united. Our diaspora must be united, no matter where Macedonians live abroad. Not only formally, but substantially united. We must build our future based on this, respecting neighbors, and asking that from them.
Благодарам.